So welcome to the session. We had gone up to in our book Man and His Bodies. We had done up to page 105, correct? So just a reminder, this current chapter is called the mind bodies, not body, but bodies. Why? Because we had seen there are the our there are actually two distinct bodies that we have on the mental plane. That there are there are two bodies on the mental plane. So we saw the distinction. The lower four subplanes were called the lower mental body. I'll just again show you the same slide. Just give me a moment. So we had seen that there are these seven planes. Out of them, one plane is called the mental plane. And if we take a deeper look at the mental plane, it has two different bodies. The what is called the mental body or the lower mental body, and then the higher upper mental body, or what is also called you can see the word here on page 105, causal body. Now just note, it is not casual. Sometimes I hear people saying casual body. It's not casual. Causal meaning of the causes, the body of the causes. So we have already studied the mental body or the lower mental body. Now we will start our discussion on the causal body. So let's start reading from page 105. Let us now pass on to the second mind body, known by its own distinctive name of causal body. The name is due to the fact that in this body reside all the causes which manifest themselves as effects on the lower planes. So I'll just read all this, then we'll discuss it. This body is called the body of Manas, the form aspect of the individual, of the true man. Now, whenever you hear true man, understand either being talked about the higher soul or the divine spark. It is the receptacle, the storehouse in which all his treasures are stored for eternity, and it grows as the lower nature passes up more and more that is worthy to be built into its structure. The causal body is that into which everything is woven which can endure, and in which are stored the germs of every quality. Now, germs here is not, please don't see it in a negative sense. But germs just means that it is something that can grow, or like seeds, you can say. Germs of every quality to be carried over into the next incarnation. Thus, the lower manifestations depend wholly means completely, on the growth and development of this man for whom the hour never strikes. What it means by for whom the hour never strikes, meaning the timeless aspect of the human, which again means the higher soul. Because for the higher soul, there is no sense of time like we have. You see, at the physical plane, our sense of time is related to, for example, the earth goes around the sun, the earth goes around its own axis once in 24 hours. Then it goes around the sun once in 365 days. So, that is how our sense of time is usually decided. But now what we are being told here is that is not, for that aspect, the true aspect, there is no concept of time. Anyway, that's not really the point here. So let's now break this down in this one paragraph. What are all the points? Many things are being said here. Number one, it is explained why it is called the causal body, because all the causes which will later manifest either in this lifetime or in the next lifetime, or what in Sanskrit we sometimes called samskar, those are stored in the causal body. Yeah. So now, then another thing is being said, it is the body of manas. Manas meaning it is formed from the particles of the mental plane. We just saw that slide, the mental plane. So all the particles in the causal body are from the upper three, sub levels of the mental body, mental plane. Now, one more important thing being said is this is the form aspect of the soul. What does that mean, form aspect? This is the body of the higher soul. All right. Now, then it says, she tells us it stores the treasures. What does it mean, the treasures? All the lessons. We keep saying, difficult times they teach us lessons, or there is some, what lesson have you learned? What is, so all the lessons that we learn, all the wisdom that we acquire, all the life wisdom, all the, wisdom about the world and how we should live, and, all that, on the spiritual path, etc., etc. All those lessons are stored in the causal body. And this also, you see, how are they stored, or what is the, when we say lesson learned, what does it mean? So, for example, we are tempted to lie, be dishonest, maybe in a small thing, in a small way. But at some point, we learned the lesson that the truth is most powerful. Yeah, something like that. Or like, for example, the five virtues. Or let's just stick with truth, that one should always be truthful. Now, this is an abstraction. What has happened is, from a variety of experiences and maybe words that we have received, words we have said, all our interactions and so on, we have taken out a lesson. What is the lesson? It is better to be, best to be truthful. Okay. Now, these are what are also called abstractions. And if you remember, we have been talking about the Agnya Chakra. The Ajna Chakra is the chakra related to the higher mental plane, because that is where your abstract thinking is involved. So, I mean, why I'm telling you all this is just to bring to your notice. It's not said, explicitly in the book, but it is something we can derive from this, that we need to use, or we need to shift our thinking from throat a little bit to the ajna, so that we are more, how should I put it? It is easier for us to form abstractions, to learn lessons, to, extract lessons. आप समझ रहे हैं मेरी बात? We go through many experiences, but we should be able to derive principles. कि ये what is the principle? The principle, for example, is, let's take another thing. If I am harsh to other people, someone else will be harsh to me. If I am generous, I will be blessed with great prosperity. These are like principles, जिसको हम universal truths भी बोलते हैं, and so on. Those are principles. Now, what I'm trying to now just underline is the importance of abstract thinking. Most of the times, or almost all the times, our thinking is very concrete. We can think about this person, this situation, this object, this thing, what is happening. But can we generalize? Can we conceptualize? Can we abstract some knowledge or wisdom out of, the many observations that we make? I hope I'm not confusing you. Okay. Now, one other point that is being made is that this causal body, it does not, it is not, it is carried forward lifetime to lifetime. So, one lifetime, all the lessons up to the end of that lifetime stored in the causal body. Physical body dies, etheric body is released, astral body is released. You remember we saw how the astral body is released, lower mental is released, but the causal body is retained, and that is what carries forward into the next lifetime. Yeah. So so that is one of the that is what tells us that this is the importance, yeah, of this. Now, page 106, 107, if you look at the next two paragraphs, starting with the causal body as said above, and then the first paragraph on page 107, when by the power of the self. Let's just discuss the summary. You see, we are being told is that the causal body is the essential aspect of our human existence. Okay, let's look at another slide here. Until we are given the causal body, we are not human. Okay. So for example, now if you look at the different kingdoms, the mineral kingdom, the vegetable kingdom, the animal kingdom, and then the human kingdom, what is the essential difference? You see, the third outpouring, you remember we've talked about this, how the bodies were formed and so on. The third outpouring, what it does is it causes individualization. Before this individualization, before this body is formed, the when we talk about the minerals, the plants, the animals, they do not have individual souls. So there is a group soul, or let's say many group souls, to which many animal bodies, many so like there may be a particular species of animal. Species not in a biological sense, but in a thing. So, for example, one type of dogs. So many dog bodies may be attached to that one dog group soul. But as each dog is evolving separately and all the lessons are being put together in that one group soul. But when one of the dogs has sufficient mental development, the lower mental body is sufficiently developed, the divine sparks are looking to attach themselves. So one divine spark will come and attach itself to that, and this animal soul will now become the causal body of that divine spark, of the higher soul coming down from that. Now this may be if you are not if you don't have a background in theosophy, this may be a little confusing, so we won't get into too much discussion. Let's just leave it here, that the causal body is the essential part of our humanness. Other kingdoms, the animal, the plant, the mineral, they do not have causal bodies. All right? Their group souls themselves are like the causal body. Okay, next paragraph. She's describing the causal body. This slide we have seen earlier, when in the beginning of evolution, this is what it looks like. Then as we evolve, the causal body also evolves. It changes. Yeah. And then she mentions the Sutratma, and I'm sure from Master Choa's teachings, we are all familiar. We understand, we know about the spiritual cord, the Sutratma and the Antrakarana that Master Choa talks about. All right. We won't get into all that over here. Okay, let's come to page 108. 108, page 108. Third line from the top, it is the receptacle of all which is in, she's talking about the causal body. So let's say the causal body is the receptacle of all which is in accordance with the law. The law. Now you see the capital L meaning the divine law. of every attribute which is noble and harmonious and therefore enduring. It is that which marks the growth of man, the stage of evolution to which he has attained. Every great and noble thought, every pure and lofty, lofty meaning very high, very highly, very refined emotion is carried up and worked into his substance. So again, this is just a reminder the what the causal body is doing. It is, the state of the causal body shows how evolved that person is. And you just saw those slides where you could see that the causal body changes, evolves as the person evolves. And largely it is to do with our thoughts and emotions. Every great and noble thought, every pure and lofty emotion. So, all the good things, all our good thoughts, all our good abstractions, all our wisdom, that is that goes into the causal body. All our unselfish acts, all our unselfish desires, all our desire to work for the divine plan, all that goes into, as our virtues develop, all that energy goes and amends or refines the causal body further. So, one thing is very clear, our spiritual development is reflected in the state of the causal body. Number two, our spiritual development is closely related to our thinking noble, refined thoughts, having pure and lofty emotions. Now, this is a very profound truth. It has great relevance for us. Please think about it. Maybe you can underline this line. Every great and noble thought, every pure and lofty emotions is carried up and worked into his substance. Because this, if you meditate on, hopefully it will give us motivation to think and have those kind of emotions rather than be caught up in selfishness. There's nothing wrong with being selfish, nothing wrong with healthy self interest. But to be limited by that is the problem. Okay, let's go to page 109. I will. So in on page 109, actually, we'll read only at the end. Before that, she is explaining the ordinary life. The ordinary person, that ordinary life where they are entangled or ruled by their lower emotions and thoughts. You know what? In they use a very nice term, kama manas. So kama means desires. So your desires and thoughts related to the desires. For example, greed. So greed makes us look at something and say, "Oh, I want this." And then our thinking, our lower mental body is now focused on how can I get it. So that, the term that is used sometimes is kama manas, Kama Manas. So this vicious cycle that is caused by desires and our thinking process, which is caught up in those desires. Yeah. Okay. Let's read the last paragraph. But if the man during the life which he spends in these lower regions has an unselfish thought, a thought of service to someone he loves, and makes some sacrifice in order to do service to his friend, he has then set up something that is able to endure. Now, whenever you read able to endure means it will go into the causal body, because only that will endure. Otherwise, at death, gone. Something that has in it the nature of the higher world, that can pass upward to the causal body and be worked into its substance, making it meaning the causal body, more beautiful, giving it perhaps the first touch of intensity of color. So she is describing how somebody who has never had an unselfish thought, always been, me, now first time thinks of sacrifice, doing something for someone else, giving up something in order to be of service to someone else. Then what happens? That is what has been described. Now just extrapolate that. You make a habit out of this, what is going to happen? Yeah. So this is how, our, so then later in that page, then she describes how samskars, our habits, the seeds of our habits, they are formed and how they are brought into the next life. We have kind of read about this earlier also, so I won't go into much detail. I won't sort of read this. Let's go to page 111, the first paragraph. Thus, the causal body may be thought of as the storehouse of evil as well as good, being all that remains of the man after the lower vehicles are dissipated. So, when, after what we call death happens, then all the lower bodies are dissipated, they are released and they dissolve. But the causal body is the storehouse of our good things and also our evil things. That is what was described in the previous paragraph. And when the death happens and the all the bodies are released, then all that remains is the causal body. Yeah. Now the good things, our positive things, because the positive things belong to the higher mental plane. So they get worked into. Worked into means they become a part of the fabric of the causal body. That is how the causal body changes. That is how it becomes brighter and so on. And the not so good things, the wrong things, they are there as seeds, what we call samskars, but they remain in seed form. They do not get worked into the causal body. Now, in the next paragraph, she explains something very important. She says that harm done by what she has called evil, let's just say negative things, is more than just the seeds for the next time. Even some of the positive development can be lost from the causal body. So this is a strict warning to us. Bhaiya, dhyan rakho, be careful. Because not only will they become samskars and cause of karma in the next lifetime, and may also cause some disability, some problems and so on, but also some of the progress you have made may be stripped off. Yeah. And then even more important, let's go to page 112. What she is telling us is that if the evil is severe, okay, let's read here. But where the ego meaning the soul, has become strong both in intellect and will, without at the same time increasing, I'm sorry, ego here I think means the personality. But where the ego has become strong both in intellect and will, without at the same time increasing in unselfishness and love, where it contracts itself round its own separated center instead of expanding as it grows, building a wall of selfishness around it and using its developing powers for the I instead of for the all. In such cases arises the possibility alluded to in so many of the world's scriptures of more dangerous and ingrained evil of the ego setting itself consciously against the law. Again, the law is the divine law because it's in capital, of fighting deliberately against evolution. So if we become extremely bound and captured by our own selfishness and greed and so on and so forth, think of, for example, Ravana, very big tapasvi, extreme powers were granted to him as boons, but because he was caught up in selfishness, it led to a disastrous end. Yeah. So he actually became dangerous, and that is why it required a divine incarnation to come and finish him off to save the world. Because he was going against evolution, he was going against the divine plan. And we can also think of black magicians who have strong powers, but instead of using it for general, welfare of the world, they use it for their own selfish purposes, maybe to earn money or something like that. Now, I think our time is getting over. I just have a small suggestion, something to think about. So, we keep using the word evil. Yes. Now, my suggestion is think about it. What is evil? Now, we have seen that the entire world is created by the three divine aspects: light, love, and power. You remember the three aspects, the three outpourings, and so on. So, when something is only created by the three divine aspects and they are light, love, and power, then where is the scope of evil? What is evil? What can be evil? How can there be evil? Where does it come from? How can it be there? Matlab, where does it come from will be answered. Question is, where is the scope for evil when everything is created from God, from the three divine aspects of God? So, what is evil? Because I think it is helpful to think about it. We keep saying evil, evil, evil. But what is evil? So please think about it, and let's discuss it in the next session, which will be next Thursday. So I think we should